Okay, what is going on? So I had a big issue back in my last stream because I didn't have the audio on, and so thank you to Louise who stream bombed me to let me know my audio wasn't working. So we're gonna go ahead and count down. We're gonna restart this entire stream, and so that way we have sound. So give me a few seconds, and we shall return. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Great State Truth. I'm your host, Christina, and Louise should be with me shortly. I just sent her the link back again. We were going to restart this entire stream because my dumbass did not post the little thing that I needed correctly. But I have done that. We are good now. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to listen in again to this podcast, I guess what you'll call it, and re-go over the things that we were talking about earlier, less in depth, but I just wanted to point out the misconception, the misinformation, and the ridiculous stories that have been sent out by Sophia here, and now Crypt Rick is putting out this misinformation because that's what they do. That's what they thrive on. And so we're going to get started today and redo our complete stream from earlier. Hopefully, Louise pops in here soon.
Are you with me? Hello?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. Not a problem. Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time to come and chat with me this evening.
Thank you for asking me to join you.
Oh, awesome. Well, I've interviewed you before for my YouTube channel. I know you're very passionate about this case, and you do a lot of research with a lot of other people that are doing a lot of research. As people know,
no, they do a lot of narrating, but they don't do a lot of research because most of the stuff they give out is misinformation and their own little narrative twist on things.
Oh, Greg Fernandez Jr., who I've had on both of my shows, and we actually did talk about the Crowley case on one of my first shows. And I know there's Catherine Michelle that's diving. She has a YouTube channel. You and her are digging into a lot of things. And so I figured, because I saw this doc.
They're digging into the same crap that's already been debunked for the past 7 years now.
So-called documentary on last week. I watched it again. I wanted to see, because I haven't watched it for a long time, Sophia, so I want to see if how it would sit with me when I watched it again. And it actually left me with the same feeling I got when I watched it all the other times. And I probably watched it a total of 5 or 6 times now, and it left me with the same feeling that it just really did not sit well with me, because I like the way they steered this documentary, and I really hope we'll check this documentary out if you haven't, and because I like to hear what people think after they see it, and especially when they start looking into the case. And for me, this documentary did not answer any questions that I thought it would. It was totally not what I was expecting, and the ending really was jarring to me. I was talking about that before we went live. Like, I don't understand the ending, what they were trying to kind of like wrap it up really quickly and that. So I want if maybe you can do this for everybody who hasn't heard of the David Crowley case. Can you give them a quick just let people know what this case is about, and kind of give people a broad kind of like what it's all about and where people sit with it and stuff like that?
Sure, absolutely. Dave Crowley and his wife and 5-year-old daughter were found deceased in January 2015. Now, before they were found deceased, he was in the process of selling his documentary and, selling his movie, The Great State. And you could find these trailers all on YouTube, which this is kind of like a end of days for the United States.
Right. New
type
World
of
Order
movie.
takes over. Martial law
Mhm.
takes over. Right.
The elites, the Illuminati, all of it jumbled together. And the trailers look amazing, but the movie was never completed. He has several scripts that we have been able to get a hold of, and they're located on on Greg Fernandez's website, which is called the Gray Stage WordPress.com.
Right.
And you can also find it on Facebook, which would be the Justice for David Crowley and Family. And it's a group. There's also a Facebook page, but we're more active in the group.
Right.
And we can direct you to the scripts. We can direct you to the documentary, which, by the way, the documentary is located on Discovery Plus.
Okay.
And you
Perfect.
can watch it there. You can also watch it on, I believe it's BitChute for free. They have the documentary, and they also have the Gray Stage, The Rise. So,
Oh, right. Yes, that's interesting too. You can find that on YouTube if you dig.
yes,
You got to
if you
kind of
really
dig
dig.
and play with the words a little bit in the search. You can actually pull it out. Right. I've got both versions of The Rise, the unfinished and then the finished one.
And The Rise is a really long documentary that
Yep.
David was working on, and he was supposed to release it for free for the world.
Okay, now listen to what she just said. David was supposed to release The Rise for free to the world on January 1st.
On January 1st, 2015, but it was never released.
Right.
Well, officially released.
Right.
And so David had flown to Hollywood in May, then again in July, I believe. And July was where the contract was given to him by Mike's Entertainment. I believe it was Mike's Entertainment or something.
Yep. The mics.
And they were going back and forth negotiating the contract up until his death. And there is some discussion, arguments even, in regards to whether or not David walked away from this contract. But the information that we receive from Crowley, especially the newest information, shows that David did not walk away from this contract. It was for $30 million. They wanted, instead of doing an actual movie.
Okay, so ask yourself this question. If David had a contract with EMG Entertainment Group, Mike's Entertainment, if he had a contract for $30 million, this is a man who has said the proverbial fish in a barrel, people are going to pull out their wallets. I have this thing in my head. People are going to pay me for it. All this stuff. Why would he release something on January 1st for the world for free? Ask yourself that question. If David had a contract for $30 million with the mics, why would he put it out on YouTube for free for the world on January the 1st? I'm going to say it one more time just so it can stick in your head. If David had a $30 million contract with the Mikes, MEG, Mike's Entertainment Group, why would he release it for free to the world on January the 1st? The Mikes specifically stated there was no contract. There were talks. There were talks about money. There were talks about a series. There were talks about several things, but there was no contract. The thing that was written up by David's lawyer. That was his stipulations. So when you go into a contract, you usually have an attorney. And that attorney will write down and sign those stipulations that you want. That's the paper that David had. That is not a contract. It is not a set in stone thing between the Mike's Entertainment Group and David Crowley. It was simply a stipulation between them and what David wanted to keep and what he would move and what he wouldn't move. We know that David walked away because he texts his father that he walked away. We know that David walked away because he didn't keep in touch with the Mikes. Now, if David had a $30 million contract, don't you think that David would have kept in touch with them? Don't you think he would have answered their emails and their calls and all that stuff? Why would he just ignore them? We know David walked away because he wrote an email to Jason shortly before the murder-suicide saying, you know what I need, man? I need you to help me with this. I need you to help me. You know what I need. You know what this is. You know how hard I put my heart and soul into this. Why would he speak to someone else about putting this out if he had a contract with the Mikes for $30 million? Ask yourself that question. Those documents are in the evidence, the email that David wrote, the text message that David wrote, the non-communication that David didn't have with the Mikes. It's all there. It's all there to see. So I guess I'm just trying to understand what is so hard and what is so difficult about not being able to figure this out. Hey, Louise, sorry.
Okay.
I was on a rant, and then I just now seen you popped in. So
It's okay. I've literally only just come on.
So we're talking about the so-called $30 million contract. And I said, put it in your head. If David Crowley had a $30 million contract with the Mikes, why in the hell would he release The Rise on January 1st for the people for free? Tell me what kind of sense that makes.
Well, yeah, and I think also there's quite a difference between having a solid contract and then having an option purchase contract thing.
Yes.
Because that's like keeping everyone kind of has options to do different things, and once that's sort of signed, sealed and everything, then you can't really do anything. It's up to the company to do something, but they didn't have it signed and sealed. And as you were saying, you know, it's clear from David's actions, regardless of, you know, and this is no disrespect to the Mikes. I mean, he even says it himself. He was trying to reach out to David for months from like October, and he was getting nothing, and he was getting quite concerned, and he was trying to get a mutual person to sort of chase up David to see if he was okay, because he was getting concerned because he wasn't getting back to them. He said that he'd sent David Thanksgiving messages, Christmas messages, and all sorts. He wasn't getting anywhere. And then you see that David's reaching out to Jason Allen. So when people are saying that it was all sort of set up and everything, the Mikes had the intention of working with David, but clearly David changed his mind. And then, there's the text message to David's dad where he said he walked away from matters of the heart, but people are trying to make out that doesn't exist and that David's dad's lying. And it's like, but the actions of David tell you
the email. Everything goes together, and that's what I said about them. They want to pick and choose kind of what they want. You know what I mean? Like they pick and choose what rabbit hole to go down next, and they don't put it all together. I mean, you have the email to Jason Allen, you have the text message to his father, you have the non-communication, between David and the Mikes. If you had a $30 million contract, you're not going to miss out on communicating with those people. You're not going to try to set up something else with Jason Allen. You know what I mean? And it's not just the text message with his dad. It's the whole thing, his whole actions from October to December. It's not just one thing. It's all things.
Yeah, it's like he was thinking of going into business and accepting this deal, but then for whatever reason, he got cold feet, and instead of contacting the Mikes and saying, I've had second thoughts, he just put them on his block and avoid list.
Yeah. Yep. But I don't know. It's funny how Sophia spins things, like, and Rick just kind of absorbs them without looking at things as a whole.
I mean, and it's like none of them have
spoken to any of us.
Yeah, exactly. Or even if you didn't want to speak to any of us, it's like, well, why haven't you reached out to David's friends or David's family? Why are you going on hearsay of what Greg and Sophia and Catherine think of these people? Can't you actually have a conversation with people off your own back and make your own mind up? Because you are supposed to be open-minded.
Although we know that's not true now. That's why I decided to pick this video to pick apart, because we've given Rick quite a long time to
it's at least 6 months, I think.
Respond. We've messaged him, we've asked him, hey, whenever you have time, like between all of us, I think we've tried to get a point across to him, and it's kind of a fail, and it's like he wants this narrative, just like they do, to be pushed because it's more interesting.
It's very much the impression that I got from hearing parts of this. It's just very one-sided, whilst trying to portray to your audience that you're open-minded and everything, but you haven't yet presented anything that counters this spin of gossip and speculation.
Definitely. All right, well, let's continue on to the next misconception. Give me just a second. Let me turn this back on.
They wanted to do a limited time series, I think, on FX.
Okay.
I think that
speculation.
It was either FX or AMC, whichever one had
speculation.
Well, she even said
she
AMC.
Doesn't know what she's talking about.
American movie classics. David's movie is a classic.
They were talking about Netflix miniseries of like Netflix or YouTube, when YouTube were doing, was it YouTube Red?
Yeah.
They was talking about that kind of thing.
Yeah, because David had already had like a platform on YouTube.
Or working, or with A&E.
Yeah. AMC. Oh Lord.
Sons of Anarchy. Because,
FX. Yep. You're right. FX. Yeah.
Yes. Good series, by the way.
I agree.
And they were, since that was ending, they were really feeling that they could fill that void with
hearsay, objection. They never said that.
I know. Out of
I
scope.
object. That's out of the scope of cross-examination. God, we've been watching this damn Johnny trial for too long. I'm glad it's over with. Oh my God. And like, where did that come from? Oh, because the Sons of Anarchy's over, they want to fill that void. Like, dude, where?
And the thing is like you don't really work with the actual channel. The channel purchases from producers and companies. It's
Where
just
did she get that from? Sons of Anarchy. David's series was going to fill that void.
I mean, I think that Mike mentioned something about Sons of Anarchy, but in the context of that it did well, and that they believe, they're trying to sell to David the TV series. Look at how this worked out, and Grace, it could potentially be, but it's not in the way in which Sophia's trying to spin it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's continue.
With this type of series.
Mm-hmm.
And so David was excited about it. We have his journal where he discusses that he's excited about doing the series. And he wrote, I think, the premiere and the first episode. And then he sent
I think you can't use I think. And
well,
this is why
everything is I think.
Exactly. And this is why no professional person will have anything to do with them or this spin of a story that they keep on creating, because all they have is I think, and I think doesn't cut anything. When they keep on going on about trying to get this case reopened, I think won't stand up in court. And that is their problem, that they just can't comprehend that their little tiny boots of their big egos thinking that just because they think something means that it's a fact is complete irrelevance.
Yeah, I mean, and even if they took it back to court, the only thing that they would probably get is evidence that they didn't have that would prove them wrong. I mean, in all honesty,
but it wouldn't even get to court because there isn't any evidence that they can produce other than their own opinion, and they have no experience.
Who are you? Popular opinion can be popular opinion all you want it to be. It doesn't mean that you can take it to court. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And there's no grounds for it. And that's what they don't seem to be able to comprehend, is they don't have any grounds for anything. It's like when they keep on saying how, I can't understand how the families aren't fighting for justice for David. It's like, because they've seen all the evidence, you dumbass. They're not some fool sat behind a computer screen who's never met this family. They know David, they know Kamal, they know Ronnie, they know what, they might not have known necessarily at the time building up to it just how bad things were, but since, they've seen everything that this lot and everybody else who thinks that the families are uncaring and unknowledgeable and don't, just accepted it off the cuff of, oh, well, must be what happened. It's so insulting to the families that you've got a bunch of whack jobs who think they know better, who think it's their place to keep publicly stating that basically you're a shit parent and you don't care about your son and you should be fighting for his innocence. But as David's dad knows, David is guilty of sin.
Yeah. So he just he's tired of dealing with those people because they're opening the wound even more.
Exactly. And I mean,
the truth, it's like, it's just reopening that wound every single day that they continue to do this.
Yeah.
So it's a sad situation, and they don't care. They could care less about anybody's feelings. They're gaining their attention that they want and their monetary gains from gray
From the
stage
gutter of
ladies.
YouTube and all the other loons that are on YouTube who have got no ounce of common sense, let alone got a gram of common sense.
Oh yeah, and
They
you can
haven't.
tell in the comments, you know,
Yeah.
it's
It's just, I think it's not, I
funny.
went and I was looking and I found these studies and it says this and it shows this. And if you look at this study, you know, it's still, well, I spoke to the vet, but I don't want to believe what the vet said. So I'm going to spin a narrative.
that's their go-to is their narrative, and then there are 15 million rabbit holes they can go down into one thing. That's what I said. Like, I could go down 15 rabbit holes into Sophia's life if she really wants me to go there. You know, I could go down 15 rabbit holes into Laurie's life. We can really go there. You know, there's everybody has a rabbit hole in their life, but if you don't take the whole thing into perspective, like, you're just picking and choosing what you want, it's gonna look better than the whole outcome, you know.
Definitely.
It off, but as far as we know, it stops right there. We don't get anything else.
That's a lot else. I've never heard anybody else say that, like, else. You do get more. You get the non-communication between David and the Mikes. Again, you get the letter to Jason Allen. You get the text message to Dan Sr. You do get more.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. They don't want to add the after the journal.
Yeah.
They don't want to add the written journal that they don't have.
Yeah. Or the video recordings they don't have.
Exactly. And that's the problem. They think they have this whole timeline. Well, you can't have a timeline when you don't have all of the information that you need.
Definitely.
You can't have a timeline.
I mean, they won't
The journal
admit and
actually
acknowledge that there's like FaceTime and things. They don't acknowledge that on the Blacklight report it says recently used apps or recently like running apps. It doesn't catalogue the complete list of apps that David has had on his phone. Yet they keep on saying there's no WhatsApp, there's no Skype, there's no, and they cannot say that. And this is, you know, this is why it's completely, you know, there is absolutely no credibility to what they say, and it won't stand up in court if they was to, you know, that's what they sort of try and push, that they've got all the evidence that proves things, but it doesn't. And they keep forgetting they don't have all the documents, they don't have all the case files, they don't have everything. So they can't say that these things don't exist. They don't have medical records. They're not entitled to the medical records. Maybe there's stuff to do with mental health and they didn't want that released to the public because they don't want to stigmatize it more than it already is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Either November 5th or November 7th.
Yeah.
And but it really gives you a good insight into David's world. Some of the stuff that you'll see in the documentary is that.
So she says that the journal will give you a good insight into David's world.
Where he ends talking about his daughter being born on the 5th of November, even though she's born in August.
You know, we've got, so many different things that we could pull out of that journal, but they don't want to make credibility. Like, they don't want that to be credible. David, you know, claiming that he has PTSD or him curling up in a fetal position in the bathroom. You know, they don't want to use that. It gives an insight into his life when they pick and choose what they want to give an insight into his life to be. And
it's all, he was being creative. He's creative.
Yeah, creative by calling your
Van Gogh
daughter
was
a
creative, and
pissed.
Picasso was creative, and they all had their own issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, calling your own daughter a pink shit and a cyst and a, you know, burden on life and an unwanted pregnancy and, you know,
They still
all this other stuff.
haven't produced any of this, taking it in the right context yet.
Oh yeah. I mean, him locking her, I believe he had her in the basement. I mean, she was acting up. I think he put her in the basement. You know,
I mean,
why
you know
else
what would be
would
quite interesting would be to literally go out to where, you know, your local sort of town or city and ask 100 people, would you ever call your child a burden or a pink shit? And quote some of the things that David said, obviously not divulging that it came from David to save dignity and things, but would you say this? Would you think it's acceptable? Would you be concerned if you knew somebody who wrote about a child like that? And then see
what your status is there.
Yeah.
We should put a poll up, like just a random poll somewhere. Would you call your child this? Would you do this? And then just post it, just some random group where nobody knows about the case, nobody knows about anything, and just would you, you know, like a mental health group or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
and
like
see how many people go, well, it depends on the context.
It's funny
because
I just
there
looked
isn't a context.
On my Twitch channel. It says streaming Grand Theft Auto v Crypt Rick doesn't think very well.
There was marijuana left open. It was in like a Ziploc bag, and then they had like a grinder that had been left open on the.
And there was a bong in the bathroom, and there was some fuzzy sticks with some residue all over it. And there was residue all over the sink. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that. David was cleaning out his bong, and he smoked a damn bong. Probably smoked it before he died, didn't give it time to process in his body to turn into freaking cannabis for it to show up in a drug test. That, and he laid there for how many damn weeks before they found him. So that way it goes unprocessed through your body. I mean, it's pretty clear situation. Most people put their pot in a grinder before they put it in a bong.
Yeah. And there is no right or wrong way. People have their own ways of doing stuff and keeping
Well, hell, when I
it.
was a teenager, we smoked it out of a damn apple, okay? In a pop can. We'd like squish a pop can together and poke holes in the top of the pop can, and you put your pot on top of the pop can, and you put a hole at the bottom, and you hold it. And like, that was our homemade bong. We made one out of an apple. We made one out of several different
There's
things.
all kinds of things, pop bottles and carrier bags. All sorts of ways and means. Some people are meticulous in how they store it. Some people cut it up with scissors and don't bother grinding it. Some people mix it with tobacco. Some people smoke it neat.
Some people
have
eat it.
different
They
ways.
put it in freaking brownies.
Yeah, some people leave crumbs everywhere. Some people have trays and keep it all on a tray.
Well, David himself even said that he had a space for his new green on his dresser now. I mean, that's in the journal. He said it's got a permanent spot on his dresser.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And Ronnie wasn't that tall, so she probably couldn't see on top of the dresser.
Either that or she just wasn't allowed in their room. They kept their room shut or whatever because they had, you know, weapons in there and they had, you know, pot in there or whatever.
Yeah.
Like maybe she just wasn't allowed in that room. It's that
Sorry if
simple,
you can hear my little puppy. She's being brave in the garden.
Barking up a storm there.
Right. The dresser.
Mm-hmm.
And and honestly, there's a lot of banter back and forth in regards to this because David's autopsy reports and Camel's autopsy reports show that they didn't have drugs in their system.
Louise.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the drugs?
Well, I think that they are, again, produce the toxicology report then. Because you don't have it. It's not been made public. So produce it, seeing as they keep on talking about it, saying these things, just like they keep saying about, hang on a second, Poppy. No. They keep they keep saying about as you can tell she's taken absolutely no notice. Stop being a naughty girl.
She said, me too, me too.
They're talking shit. I'm sick of hearing about it.
Oh man. The amino acids.
Protest.
I think that the funniest part was the amino acid that Sophia got to talking about. And amino acids is basically just them trying to find deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies, vitamin A, vitamin D, anemia, things like that. That is what they do in a postmortem toxicology to kind of rule out, was there a deficiency? Is that the cause of death? They have to rule things out first, even though
no one has any Sophia has never ever set a foot on a crime scene. She's never set foot in a medical examiner's office. She's never set foot in a laboratory. She's got absolutely no grounds for stating anything as fact because she's got zilch experience.
Right. I mean, you
can
got the look up what amino acid is on Google.
Yeah.
Like, that's the saddest part about it is you can Google amino acid and what it is and what it portrays in a postmortem autopsy. And there's nothing to do with shrooms in a freaking amino acid test.
This is it. But the problem is that it leaves for that lot, it leaves it open for them to spin the speculation and twist it into stuff that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And that's where their problems are. It's because this looks weird to me. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense. But you're not qualified. You're not an expert in this field. So it shouldn't make any sense to you, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Because nobody on a daily basis start sort of studying this kind of stuff unless they're going into it for a career. So when they're all saying how this doesn't make sense and that doesn't make sense, how do you know? Because you don't work in that field. It could be, it could all make perfect sense with all of the test results. In fact, I'm pretty much sure that it does, because otherwise it would have been a red flag and they would have done more investigations into things. But they don't even have the damn toxicology reports in the first place, so they're just speculating.
Yeah. And it shows a lot about Kathy's expertise as well, because she should have spoken up when Sophia said something about psilocybin being shown on an amino acid test. I mean, it's.
But Catherine didn't qualify in the nursing thing. She gave up her. I think she had health issues or something, and she didn't continue and pass her thing. So again, you're not in a position to state anything as fact. You might have a little bit more knowledge, and then again, healthcare of somebody who's living is completely different to when they're dead.
Yeah. Their body, produces things differently, and it's.
But they're undermining
how long
everyone
does pot
who
stay in your system? How long does it stay in your system after death? They don't know those things because they're not in that profession. So
exactly, it's like when they go on about the amount of blood. It's like, but when you've been shot through the head, I imagine it's pretty much instantaneous death. Therefore, your heart stops pumping. Therefore, there's nothing to sort of motion the flow of things to come out. It's just going to leak out.
Yeah.
And it's going to congeal.
Yeah.
And it's going to stay in your muscles and your veins and all that sort of stuff. So when they're saying there should be this, there should be that, there should be this. Again, how many people have you seen shot dead? How many scenes have you gone to? That's right, none.
Exactly.
So it's speculation again. And when you're undermining professionals who deal with it on a weekly, if not daily basis, it just makes you look incredibly arrogant as well as stupid.
And everything they say is based on a narrative and not, they want to criticize the professionals. They've got videos up roasting Tom Wyden, who's literally a news guy.
I know. I mean, Greg couldn't roast a potato, let alone roast a journalist.
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good one.
I know it'll be like Greg flinging his sequin handbag over his shoulder, flouncing because he's trying to get a reaction from Tom Lydon, and it just doesn't wash because people just think he's a moron. Just leave him to it. Yeah. We know what he's going to say. They didn't do their job properly. David's innocent. There's no evidence that proves David's guilty. And people go, whatever. Move on. Nothing to do with you, Greg. You don't know what you're talking about. Christ be with you. He just
really doesn't care. He doesn't even want to hear from them people or talk to them.
They laugh at them. They laugh at, on the occasions that they see things, they just laugh at how stupid they are. Because it goes to show that they don't do any research. All it is kissing each other's backside, going, you know what? That was a great idea, Sophia. You're so clever. Oh, thank you, Catherine. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, Catherine, you're so great. Oh, we couldn't do this without you, Greg. Oh, well, thank you because I'm so hot. But he spends all of his time talking about a dead man.
Yes.
I don't think his wife finds that particularly hot.
Yeah, he's one as far as quoting him, I know you're watching me. Like, what the Nobody's watching you, Greg. We really don't want to watch you.
I think people, given the choice of watching Greg or watching paint dry, I pick paint dry.
Oh, God. All right, let's keep going.
Right. Yep.
So, why was there marijuana on the dresser then?
Because it's David, you imbecile.
David said himself, he keeps pot on his dresser. Read the journal.
So, the person that we know supplied the pot, but I don't want to keep name dropping that person because they're trying to move on with their life. But the person that we know who got the pot just contacted the police and went, oh, by the way, I gave David some pot. But it's not David's pot. Why on earth would you do that? Why would you willingly go and tell the police that you supplied somebody with pot if you didn't?
Yeah. I'm going to go to jail because I want to lie and get myself in trouble.
Yeah. I was just so desperate to be a part of this story of my dead friend,
It's ridiculous.
I mean, I'm so proud to be associated with a man that's murdered his wife and child. I'll take the pot shot. I gave him it. I gave it to him.
Oh, God. It is. It's ridiculous when you sit and think about this shit.
That's the problem with this case, though, Sophia, is that as soon as you start diving into it, things right away don't start making sense. At least for me, they didn't. And I thought with this documentary that I was under the impression this was going to answer all the questions that people like you and I had. Like it was going to kind of tie everything up, and it would be that aha moment where we're like, okay, now they've kind of made a case for it. And for me, it was anything but that. And just so people know, if they don't know anything about David Crowley, he was a veteran. So I think people should know that. I think a lot of people that are listening probably have heard of the case because, as I said, I've had Greg on. We did cover 2 hours about it, and we talked a lot about it. And I've actually kind of touched on it in other conversations with people. So I'm hoping people do know a little bit about David Crowley. And if you haven't, please look into where Sophia said to go and check out the documentary and then start diving into it. Because I know for you that even when you saw the documentary, was that the first exposure you had to the case?
No, I had actually seen a couple articles like on.
Didn't she say before that that's how she found out about the case and found out about
Yeah.
the group? And now
Yeah.
it's like a completely different thing
Yeah.
now.
She changes, like whoever she's talking to, her story changes every time.
Wow. That's great. Oh, Lord.
On Breitbart and Fox
Okay, right.
right after their bodies were discovered.
And didn't she say it was like a few years after?
It was.
Like she's only been around the case for like a few years, and when the documentary came out, and now it's like right after the bodies were found. Dude, Sophia, you're a motherfucking liar. Oh my God.
I know. She needs a moment of glory.
I gotta find a clip now of her like saying these two different lies and like send them over to Crypt Rick and be like, and now you still believe this bullshit.
He went back down though. God. He's another one. They can't admit when they're wrong.
I mean, for the love of God, it's right there. Bam, bam. Sophia, what is wrong with you?
I know. I think she must have amnesia.
Something. I think she forgot when she wrote all those checks too.
Awake at that time.
Oh, I wrote a bad check. Oh, I wrote another one. I forgot about the other one that I wrote last week. Oh, there's another
that
one.
I really started waking up to what was really going on in the world.
You've been asleep
but at that time,
your
there was
life. You're still
a lot of.
Oh yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say it. There was a lot of Clinton people that were kind of mysteriously ending up dead.
And yet,
there was also a lot of holistic doctors.
You lot,
this is
still here.
This is where she goes into saying Kamel was killed because she was a dietitian who figured out the cure to autism. Yeah, this is funny. Hold on.
And practitioners that were ending up dead too in 2014 and 2015.
That's true.
Now, Kamel was a dietitian, and she had claimed to have healed her daughter's leaky gut and her autism.
That's true.
And she went public with that with another person.
No, she made a comment on an article that somebody had posted, like Fathead, where like they ate, like I think they ate McDonald's or something for like a month or something, and then she commented saying about how changing her daughter's diet, managed to reduce symptoms of things and helped with her rheumatoid arthritis. She didn't team up and like go public. She just
so she never
claimed
claimed it was a cure. She never claimed it was like a healed cure or anything like that. Okay, so it's not Kamel.
I think she put something like along the lines of like cure the leaky gut and something like that. But she'd done it as a regular citizen on someone's page. She hadn't done it in a professional capacity.
Right.
Saying, marketing herself as the witch doctor of Minnesota who can cure all ailments.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, not only that, we have holistic doctors from decades ago that have known that the symptoms of autism are more,
they can be aggravated by certain things. And if you take away some of these things, it can reduce the impact that it has, but it doesn't completely cure it.
Right. We've known this for years, though. This isn't just something new that popped up when all these so-called doctors started getting knocked off. Like, where did that information come from? I've never seen anything about holistic doctors.
There was something where there'd been a few had been sort of killed or committed suicide or what have you. But again, it's this thing of jumping to conclusions and trying to tie it into things with absolutely no evidence.
Yeah, especially autism. I mean, again,
You know, if there was a
know,
trail that was connecting Kamel to these people who were found dead, then you could then go, it's a little bit weird. We'll have to look into it some more.
yeah, there's
But
just
you've got
nothing there.
absolutely nothing other than the fact that Kamel's a dietitian.
Right. I mean, and not only that, like the whole thing with the, you know, she did that for her daughter. She didn't go public and
Yeah.
try to,
And
cure
like, you know, she's
everybody's
a
autism.
dietitian, so it's her job to like sort of look at and learn things about like dietary things, you know, just like how if you eat a handful of almonds a day, that can have benefits to your immune system and your
Yeah.
brain, and if you eat walnuts throughout the day, it can help regulate your blood sugar and all these kinds of things. And if it, you know, it's like saying, it's like you can't cure diabetes, but you can prevent diabetes too, and you can sort of reverse that with diet.
Yeah. Yep.
But you still have to be kept. Doesn't mean that you're immune to it. You can still get it again if you don't keep eating healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, we have those times when whenever I give in and buy Braylon some Skittles, and I try to take out all the red ones, but for some reason he ends up finding a red one, and even just a touch of that red dye, man, it's like an all-day meltdown, and it drives me insane. But,
Yeah.
you know, we've learned that it's the red dye that does that, and you know they can have some from time to time if you're strong enough to deal with the repercussions. But you know, whether he was going to school or whatever, I wouldn't send him with a big ass bag of Skittles. And you know, his teacher, we knew because his teacher's got ADHD.
Yeah.
And so she's in her 30s and she knows about diet and things like this because it's been around for so long. And to even like just Sophia mixing autism and people being knocked off because they think they have this cure. It's not a cure. No one ever said it was a cure. Like, for her even jumping in and speaking about something that she obviously knows nothing about.
No.
It just irks me, especially with me being an autism parent. You're an autism parent. Like, that just irks me when, you know, they're not now only digging into the Crowley's lives. You're digging into the, you know, the autism community's life of saying, oh, well, you know, these holistic doctors, like, dude, we've known this stuff for decades. It's nothing new that happened in 2013, 2014. So I don't know. I guess her just saying the word autism and like, get that word out your mouth, girl.
Yeah. I know. I know what you mean.
That's like people walking around with autism speak shirts on that don't know nothing about autism. If you knew what autism speaks was about, like, you would not support that.
No. Yeah. I completely agree.
We stick to the National Autism Association or one of the other organizations that are ran by actual autistic people.
Yeah. Definitely. That's the
that actually donate to inclusion and getting more assistance for autistic people to be included into
and
the
not
general
looking
public.
for cures as though there's something wrong with people, because they're just different. Different, not less.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You know, Sophia's like one of those people that wear an autism speak shirt because she thinks she's doing something good. Like, hopefully we can school her today. Do not wear autism speak t-shirts from Walmart. They sell them at Walmart now. I wanted to take every one of them off the rack and just hide them like underneath the jeans.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, I could go on and on and on about autism and just everything in general. But we're going to move on so that way I will stop, because that is
Move on, Christina, move right on.
It's a touchy subject, especially, just somebody putting that word in their mouth and they know nothing about it. It's like, I just
I
want
know.
to, especially Sophia, girl. All right, let's move on before I keep on going.
And that was one of the things that these natural practitioners,
Oh, Lord.
They were trying to work with autistic patients and stuff, and all of a sudden they would just end up dead.
Yeah, I remember
lots
that.
of suicide.
Well, then why were all of the doctors from the 1997 and 1985 that had holistic doctors and that were diagnosing these leaky guts and giving autistic people a different diet, why didn't they get knocked off?
Exactly.
Why are they still alive? They're still doing
How
what
do
they've
you know
done.
that there's no like massive sort of fraudulent activity that's been going on to fund things and stuff, and it came and caught up with them? Do you know what I mean? It's like you don't know the background of these things. You're making sweeping statements.
Yeah, these messed up assumptions that seriously make no sense.
And strange death.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first thought was, oh, there's another one. And
My first thought, no actual research, but my first thought
was there's another one.
Yeah. Quick, move on, get through it quick.
I'm screaming with every ounce I have. Just don't
I'm
touch on that
like,
subject, Sophia.
I know.
Don't go there.
I'm just continually
until the
vaping.
documentary came out. And I watched that documentary, and halfway through, I knew I was being lied to. And that was the first time I had ever felt that way in a documentary. It leaves you with this feeling, and you feel yucky about it.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's Sophia. That's just probably because you haven't taken a shower, or you haven't paid off your court debts from your checks or something. But it wasn't the documentary.
Well, I mean, there are loads of documentaries. I mean, just put on like a documentary about like the British monarchy, and you'll go ew, because you know that they're like spinning that, oh, aren't we this wonderful, this sort of fairy tale story of the monarch and everything. And it's like, yeah, we've raped and pillaged our way through pretty much every country and stolen from them, and that's the result of them, But you've got extreme royalists who think the sun shines out their backsides, and it's like they bleed like us, they're no different from us, but because they were born into it, they're a cut above. And it's, people are like, I would die for the Queen. Well, more fool you then, because she wouldn't die for you.
Right? So, I mean, like, why would it make you feel yucky?
Her son's a pedophile.
Why would the documentary make you feel yucky? I just don't understand. Like, what part of it?
Because you know what the answer is. Because they didn't come out and go, David's innocent.
Yeah. True.
So anything less than that, they don't like.
That's true.
You feel like you are being lied to and led down this path that
do every time I bloody listen to you.
I mean, they're telling you what to believe, and they're not.
Well, who does that sound like?
No, where do I feel like that? And what do I listen to that makes me feel dirty? Oh yeah, that's Greg and Co. It just makes you feel dirty and violated, like you've been lied to and abused, because it's just lies. They're lying to you.
Yeah, they're making you believe what they want, just like the gray stage group of people.
Exactly.
Oh,
they wanted the documentary to be about the actual deaths and going into breaking down. Well, he stood here and he did this, and the perpetrator came in through this way, and da 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 da. And of course, that's not what they got. They got a film that was about David's life and David leading up to, and what David could have achieved, but for that he took this turn in this downward spiral, and this was the ending result, and unfortunately he did do it, and that's what the evidence proves. But how can you ever put down as to why? How can you ever justify a reason for somebody shooting their wife, child, and themselves?
Yeah.
And then you go, oh well, that's all right then. It all makes perfect sense. I can live with it.
I mean, only David knows why. So
exactly,
only people in that house that know why those three are dead. One is a dog, and I don't think he's talking anytime soon. So, but alrighty, here we go.
And you can't. Basically, at the end, I was just like, "Oh, I gotta look this group up."
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was the same way when I saw that documentary. That's what I was trying to explain. It's a weird feeling that you get, at least for me and you, when you watch it, and it's a hard thing to explain. And that's a good. It just leaves you with this really sick feeling at the end of it.
Like, and I'm just like, and then after, and I've watched it many times. Watch it and go, "That's really tragic. That's so sad. Yes. That's horrible." Oh well.
Hold on. Okay, that was my maintenance guy about my AC. He's going to be here in like 25 minutes. So
no problem.
All right.
As we're going to educate him on the Crowley case. I'm like, okay, and then I'll go back to it after a few months. I'll be like, okay, I got a little time to kill. I'm going to watch it again. Maybe I missed something, and then they definitely are steering you down a path they want you to believe. It's not like they're trying to show a couple different sides or even show really the evidence.
Wow, like you, Rick, like you, just like you. You're taking your viewers down one path instead of allowing different views. Who does that sound like? You're sounding real hypocritical right about now, Rick. I don't understand how he could sit there and say that and then turn around and be that. I mean,
kind of not even, they're skimming across things, like not telling people you certain things, and then leading you down this path.
Wow.
That is really like disturbing. It
is disturbing. It is very freaking disturbing, Rick. It is disturbing what you're doing. You're really, like, you're literally speaking about yourself right now. I need to clip that and like send it to him and be like, does this sound like someone you know?
Write down the time.
Kind of covered.
Let's see, what is it? 2757, something like that.
I don't know how they looked at this documentary and thought, oh yeah, this is gonna solve it. Like, this is gonna show them. I don't know how they thought that.
That's what they told everybody. They even wrote it like in their posts and comments to people asking questions. And they're like, don't worry, this documentary will answer all your questions and everything. They were very secure in that. And I'm just
like you are, Sophia.
Yeah. But most people saw that documentary, and when it's a tragedy, it's awful. That's horrible. But unfortunately, these things do happen, and it's sad that, he hid it well, or they hid it well, and there wasn't an intervention on time. And it's tragic. But he lost his mind in that moment, or or over that period, and kept on going over and over and over something round and round in his head or in their heads, and convinced themselves, or he convinced himself, that he was going to do it. Ruminating, cutting off the people who could have influenced him out of it.
Yeah. I mean, who else leaves, their titles to their car and their keys out wide open on a desk? Anybody could break in and get it, sign the car over to themselves, and nothing can be done. You know
Well,
what I
it's
mean?
like with the passwords and
Yes.
stuff. You know, we took
Mhm.
off the password protection, left all the passwords out and everything. What are we supposed to believe? Somebody came in and went, "You will write down the passwords where you put those stock photos you took."
Every single one of them, like, and you know, he has the list of people that he's going to cut off at this time, you know, and people that he didn't want to talk to, and then, you know, the password list and this and that. I mean, so many things that are in an order that a suicidal person would do.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's, I don't know, it's very cut and dry to me, and I don't, like, I guess I don't see where they don't see it. You know, I mean, I know that
Because
they
they're
are.
looking for things. They look for the tiny little things that they don't cover, and then go, "That's suspicious." Well, they've
Well, I
only
mean,
got an hour and a half or whatever to make the documentary. They can't make it like a 3-day marathon like Greg's flipping replays. You know, there's only so much they can fit in, and hence why they
right.
have to cut and edit things. And also, it's like when they go on about the video and the audio of David's, it's like, because yes, it's no secret that they cut it. They put in the mildest things that they sort of could that showed that something was seriously not right.
Yeah.
You know, because they're still trying to give David and Kamel some dignity in death.
Yeah. And
Something
there's,
that
you know,
Greg and
lots
Co
more.
don't comprehend.
If they're talking about, you know, having things in order and going to a place that's not of this earth, and then the audio just randomly cuts out, but you know that there's more audio because the minutes show that there's more
Yeah.
audio to it. What is going to be after that discussion? You're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. You don't want anyone else to hear.
Exactly.
You know,
And it's that thing of where it crosses into, this is a thing that is what, educational, entertainment, what do you class it as? Because at that point, when you're hearing a deceased person talking about ending their own life kind of thing, then it crosses into an ethical kind of, is it ethically and morally right to put these things out there, considering what happened? And there's a little girl that is the victim in this, the innocent victim in all of this. Is it right to put stuff out there so people like Greg, Catherine, and Sophia can whack off to it, basically, and get their kicks out of it?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess you could, you know, put 2 and 2 together when it comes to the end of the audio as opposed to what's left that you haven't heard, you know, and it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious, you know, after you put everything together on top of all of the evidence, all of the, you know, the stuff that you do have, add it to, you know, an ending of things that you don't have, and it's there, it's right there, and it's
and it's blatantly like right there, really, because David titles that conversation with Kamel as Kamel's prophecy, and the definition of a prophecy is foreseeing something.
Yeah, something that's going to happen.
Yeah,
or something that's supposed to happen.
Yeah. So it's self-explanatory. They're not talking about film ideas.
Yeah. Yep. It is. It's right there. It's in your face. And for those that can't see it, I guess I just don't see where you don't see it. If it's got to be, you have no kind of
love is blind.
Yeah, very much so. That and their attention seeking and money seeking games on top of it is blind. Definitely.
Yeah.
It was definitely.
Sophia even said, "Yeah."
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Watch it in small increments because it's overwhelming to your senses.
Yeah, yeah. The ending's still jarring to me, as I was saying earlier too. That ending just, and then you were kind of telling me off air, like the ending that they wanted to go to, and then the fact that Kamel's family was supposed to be in this documentary, and then at the last minute they saw the way the documentary was going, and then said they didn't want to be part of it. I think is very telling. I think that they were kind of, to me that is, it just is. Like if this was what they thought, or they thought was leading people in the right direction or explained anything, you would think that they would want to be a part, get their say and let people know.
It was gonna they thought it was going to be more sort of helping raise awareness to sort of mental health and sort of covert domestic abuse and emotional abuse.
Right.
And they're a very private family, and they want Kamel's still their daughter, and they want dignity for their daughter, and they didn't feel comfortable with all of the stuff that was being put out in it. And it was also a bit like, Kamel's just, and it's sort of the same with Ronnie. It's all about David.
Yeah.
And it's like Kamel and Ronnie are just sort of like a bit of an afterthought. They didn't like that, and they didn't like the way that then it was portraying Kamel. And they were going to end with Sidra being pregnant and that being the happy ending, but they weren't comfortable with how it was all panning out and everything. And you've got to sort of take a step back and remember that they lost their granddaughter, their niece, they've lost their daughter. Their emotions are going to be up and down all over the place and everything. And if something doesn't feel comfortable, why should they go
Absolutely
along with it?
Yeah, they're not obligated to it. They're not obligated to, put their side of the story. They're not getting paid millions of dollars to, put themselves on there to say, hey, my daughter was part of a pack that killed her daughter. I don't feel comfortable saying that, but you want me to say that, so I'm going to say it,
Yeah. And Mrs. Alam was like having a lot of hospital treatment and things and stuff. And you've got to think of like the wider community and like their family, like wider family seeing this, because it's thinking once it's out there, it's out there. And they changed their mind. They didn't want this to. Sidra, she's got a little girl. She's going to see all of this stuff when she's older.
Yeah.
So they decided against doing it, and so Eric Nelson took out all of their stuff and he replaced it with other bits and put paleo in at the end.
Right. But either way, there was going to be a happy
conspiracy ending. You know what I mean? There are like reasons behind it that make sense.
Yeah. I mean, but either way, there was going to be this this happy ending at the end, just like most movies or documentaries. People try to find the good out of the bad. So whether it was Sidra being pregnant or Paleo still being alive, they were still going to have that happy ending at the end because this was a tragedy and it was a
it would have been good if they'd have put some stuff like helplines and things like that up.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big thing as well for the Lamb family, that there wasn't any like informative things for if you or your family are experiencing any of these things.
Right. Yeah. Just
go to these, these places are out there that can help, kind of thing.
Right.
And it was also about glorifying David.
Yeah, definitely. I understand completely. All right, so let's end for today because we're in an hour and 13. And I've got the AC guy coming in like 20 minutes now. So we'll end for today and then we'll come back tomorrow and start at 29 minutes and 23 seconds.
Okie dokie.
And continue. Okay with you?
That's no problem.
All righty, everybody. So thanks for joining us today, even though nobody was really in on the stream. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and follow us on the Crowley Case Fact vs. Fiction on Facebook and YouTube, and also Deep State Granny on YouTube. And I'm losing my voice again today. Y'all have a great day, and thank you, Louise, for sitting in with me today. And I will see y'all tomorrow.
Okay. No problem. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.